love doing a lot of different things. One of my favorite things to do in my free time is bake. But I don't know, I'm not really good at it, but that's okay. I also fly gliders, dance Indian classical. I also love playing the piano. I think that's pretty good. Oh, fencing. Finished at that time. My name is Gitanjali Rao. I'm 15 years old and I'm an innovator, scientist, and promoter of STEM. I won the 3M Young Scientist Challenge and I'm Times Kid of the Year. I am a South Asian girl and you don't really see a lot of females, let alone females of color in the field. And that became very frustrating and very isolating. Just that idea of there's nobody else that looks like me. A lot of times I'm overlooked for my capabilities or I feel undermined just because people don't view me as a scientist or an innovator. People don't think my ideas are valid just because of how I look. And that's not right. This stereotype shouldn't even exist in the first place. We have created this bias standard of what a scientist is. And I'm hoping to really flip that script and change that. A scientist is anybody, and it shouldn't be based on age, race, or gender.
Excited to be here today with
It should be based on our capabilities and our drive and motivation to tackle world problems.
Apply that to the real world. So how can we use science and tech as a catalyst for social change?
My uncle got me the science kit when I was 4 years old for my birthday or Christmas. I can tell you that that is not what I wanted for that birthday. I wanted a Barbie dream house, and I never ended up getting it, and I'm very fortunate for that. I think this science kit allowed me to discover this knack that I had to solve problems, and it was using the means of science and technology. It's always felt right. So my biggest inspiration to solve problems was honestly just to help someone in the world out there. In second grade, I realized that I wanted to combine my love of science with my love of helping people. So I entered a lot of different challenges, and I did that for a couple of years before I applied for the Young Scientist Challenge in 2017. If you ask any of my family members or friends, I'm probably the most competitive person you will ever meet now. But at the time, I was scared of applying something knowing that I would lose. And what I've really done is realize that if I don't try, I'm going to lose regardless.
In the beginning of my final presentation at the event, I talked about a little boy named Opemepo. He's 10 years old and lives in Flint, Michigan. And he has
The Young Scientist Challenge really set up a platform for me to amplify my voice regarding science and technology, as well as all these devices that I've worked towards creating. So to date, I've created about 10 or 11 innovations, and 3 of them are ones that I've created into fully functioning prototypes, and one of them has already been released. I'm continuously solving problems that I have a connection to. One of my favorite devices, and the one that garnered the most recognition after the Young Scientist Challenge, is called Tetanus.
Imagine living day in and day out, drinking contaminated water with dangerous substances like lead.
I heard about the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, and it was absolutely appalling to see how many kids my age were essentially drinking a poison every single day. And it has these carbon nanotube sensors that are built into it that are exposed to the water. This is the interior of it, which is made up of a little microcontroller, as well as a whole circuit, which is essentially able to measure resistance. And that's what identifies the lead, is the higher the lead, the higher the resistance. And it sends all the data to your mobile phone on an app that I created. One of our family friends ended up getting into a car accident in which When the doctor prescribed medications, he ended up becoming addicted to them. It was just so scary to see all of that go down firsthand. This is Epione, which is a device that helps to diagnose prescription opioid addiction. Kindly is an anti-cyberbullying service, so basically it uses the latest developments in artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language understanding and processing to pick out words or phrases that may be considered bullying. At one point, I didn't think I wanted to innovate anymore. And the reason for that is I was tired of being pushed over to the side just because of the way I look. Our generation is growing up in a place where we're seeing problems that have never existed before. And it's up to us to now realize that innovation is not an option, it's a necessity. You know, one girl cannot solve all of the world's problems. And that's exactly why I'm hoping to solicit new innovators into this world of STEM. All of us can make a difference. It's just about finding that one thing you want to change and changing it. I want to use science to inspire kindness. I cannot see a world filled with positivity and kindness without science involved. Science is a force for good in the world. You can do so much with it, but you can also really find yourself with it. And I think that that's the beauty of science and technology. I want to see a world where people are not judged on their skin color or their gender or how old they are. If you have the drive and passion and motivation to create a difference in society, nothing else matters.
When I was in high school, I got an academic award. We're at the ceremony, and I'm walking up to get my award, and my mom is sitting there. And she says, "Represent." And I, as a kid, had no idea what she meant by that. And when I got to the stage, you know, and I'm looking around, I was the only Black person up there. Oh, what she's saying is represent for the community, represent for Black people, because you're the only one up there that looks like you. My name is Dr. Sierra Civils. I'm a nuclear engineer. You know, never in a million years, if you would have asked me back in high school if I would have been a nuclear engineer, I would have said, hell no. Take that out. I'm originally from Chesapeake, Virginia. The school I went to was Hickory High School. It was kind of more predominantly white. My parents, you know, started to sit me down and say, okay, look, you're not like the other people in your class. You look different. People may make assumptions about you based on the way that you look. And as a kid, I didn't understand, you know, what they were trying to tell me. I kind of saw them as being dramatic. But over time, I started to realize, okay, they're preparing me for the world. As a minority, you're gonna have to work harder. That's the first thing I ever made when I went to MIT, and those people ate that lasagna up. And I didn't even like it because it didn't have the sage. Cooking is something that's really big in my family, and it's something that I felt like I was good at. It came natural to me. And at the time, you know, being a chef was the only thing that I really considered for a career, and something that I was really passionate about and never had any thoughts about doing anything else. Something that my parents pushed was having really good grades and making sure you did well in school. I was good in math and science, but I never saw it as an opportunity to have a career. And it wasn't until I took chemistry that my love for science really started to blossom. I was really interested in the atom, the periodic table, how these elements come together and create new things. In that chemistry class that really sparked my interest, my teacher, Mr. Harrell, he was the one to make that connection between chemistry and cooking and engineering for me.
And you said, yeah, I'll probably just go to, local college here or culinary school. I said, Sierra, you're one of my best chemistry students.
And he said, well, you should look into being a chemical engineer. Have you heard of that? Do you know what they do? And I was like, no. And he was like, go look it up and come back and tell me what you find. He was someone that challenged me. He was the first person to say, why don't you take an AP class? He didn't have to do that. But he saw something to where he was like, I feel like I can impact her career, and that's what he did. And so I would bring him different schools, and he'll be like, that's a good school, but I think you can apply somewhere better. And when I looked at MIT, I was like, oh man, it's like 6 or 8% acceptance rate. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna get in there. So when I brought that to Mr. Harrell, he was like, yeah, this is the kind of school that you should be applying to. I said, Harold, you're the best. I will be sure to harass you next year and more years to come.
And you kept your word. You can harass me anytime you want. Anytime you want.
Oh, this is so great. It was a classmate that said, hey, didn't you apply to MIT? Like, did you check and see if you got in? And I was like, no, I'm gonna go to VCU. And he was like, oh, well, you should just check. And so I went and I checked and I got in. And they were like, you got into MIT because of the demographics. And that stuck with me because I was like, well, what is it that they're saying about me? What are they saying about the institution? And that kind of pushed me to go because it was like, okay, well, you guys are mad that I got into MIT, so now I really gotta go. MIT was the first time I really got challenged because that's the first time I failed a class. That's the first time I was making like C's and D's.
So I just remember you always calling and being so upset and crying on the phone because you got a B at MIT. And I'd be like, you need to hang up and call Mom because I can't understand what you're saying. So you didn't know that that was normal for you to not get straight A's, especially somewhere like that.
That's what I was used to doing, so.
Yeah, and it's not normal.
So after MIT, I went on to the University of Michigan and got my PhD in 2019. So I was the first Black woman to get a PhD in nuclear engineering. I struggled with the idea of being the first because it was like, yes, I'm the first, I'm gonna open this door up for other people coming behind me, but I also was like, why did it take so long? How are there still the first Black woman to do X? I think part of it, yes, is systemic racism. We weren't even allowed to go to an institution like MIT. When I was presented with the opportunity to go to a place like MIT, to go to a place like Michigan, I saw that as an opportunity to open the door for people that look like me to come in and be involved in these fields. And now I've arrived at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab, where I'm a nuclear engineer. I focus more on radiation simulations, specifically looking at how radiation affects materials. So when we irradiate something, how does that change the atom? How does it change its composition? How does it change its structure? When you look at rural communities or small towns or minority communities, there's an issue of access, there's an issue of exposure. Things like social media are ways that we can start to break down some of these barriers. So at MIT, one of the things that came to the forefront for me was that I was passionate about teaching and this idea of mentorship, this idea of inspiring the next generation, showing them that people that look like them are out there in these fields. And we are trying to create a narrative in a community to show the next generation of STEM leaders that, hey, this is possible and it's fun. I tell kids that anything is possible. No goal or dream is too small.
Each year we ask a student admitted to MIT to share with us the name of a teacher who has been especially influential in his or her development. It is a remarkable achievement and a great honor to change a life, so we congratulate you on being named this year by Sierra B. Civils. You do the work from which all of society benefits. Congratulations again on your excellent work. We at MIT are deeply grateful.
Yeah, and they're not lying. You changed your life. And I think that's the nice thing about being a mentor, because you encounter kids very early on in their career journey, and especially young Black girls, and you open their eyes. Then they look at you and think, oh, if she can do that, I can do that. And my message to them is, yes, you can.
There's a stereotype of scientists. One, that they're male, and they're boring, they don't dress well, and they're like very awkward. I'm obviously not that type. You know, I'm a Latina woman, so I've got that Latina passion. I'm a person of faith. I sing, I dance, I love clothes. I'm not your typical scientist. And I always knew that being true to myself, being true to what drives me, was going to be the key to a successful and satisfying career.
Y el tupper bajón es ¿cómo es? Como una hojita y le ponía como té.
My name is Dr. Jessica Taff. I'm a microbiologist by training, and I have used my PhD in microbiology and my experience studying infectious diseases like HIV and malaria to apply that in the world of global health, which is really important in everybody's lives. And I especially feel this now with COVID. I grew up in the United States. I was born here. My mom is Paraguayan.
Y yo estoy orgullosa de ti, Jessica. Muy orgullosa.
The Latin culture definitely plays into who I am and how I grew up. There's just this love of life. And family is so important to us. My dad's side, he's your typical WASP, I guess, you know, Caucasian. He's a forester. You know, that played into my childhood in a way that, you know, we were out in nature. We always learned about science. Both of them encouraged not just us experience science, but other subjects like music and art. My mom has this funny story about me. She says, I always knew you were going to be a scientist because you used to mix all of my perfumes. I always had this interest in the biology of infectious diseases, but also really wanted to be involved in global health and apply my scientific expertise, my biomedical expertise in that arena. And the first roadblock was having people understand what type of career I wanted, because it was not your typical academic career, your typical research career. I couldn't really figure out how I was gonna live at the intersection of that. And that was incredibly frustrating because it was something that I wanted to do. Another roadblock was I felt like I had to tone down my personality in order to be respected. So for instance, the first months that I was doing my postdoc at the National Institutes of Health, I didn't wear my red lipstick because I didn't want people to focus on that and then not take me seriously. I wanted them to focus on my science first. I really shouldn't have done that. But yeah, because I didn't see a lot of people like me, I felt like I had to fit in the way that just wasn't really authentic to who I am. To do something that felt true to my passion and true to my professional mission, I had to find my community to help me figure this out. I sought out, what the global health community was. I found other people that understood the things that I was excited about and passionate about. I also met other people like myself and made friends with them and realized that there's a lot of diversity in science. There's a lot of other people like me. I feel like throughout my career, I've grown. I accept myself. And by not conforming, by staying true to myself, to my culture, to who I am, this gave me the confidence to pursue and make a path to my own type of career. I knew that I could use my scientific knowledge in the world of public health to make a difference in people's lives. And then, at some point, people started to notice that my points were valid. So I left the lab. I did a bunch of consulting in science in the global health arena, working for groups like the World Bank, United Nations, which was fantastic. Like, that was definitely the realm that I enjoy being in. It just clicks. You know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's what keeps me moving forward. When COVID hit, this was this huge realization of like, this is what I have been preparing for my entire life. This is why science is important to global health, right here, right now. So scientists swooped in. They went to sequence the virus to better understand it. Now, a year later, we've got people getting vaccines. Like, that's amazing. Scientists have been heroes in this pandemic, and it's been so exciting to see that play out. Everyone is going to remember this moment in time. They will remember having lived through COVID. I hope that the next generation of scientists get inspired by this moment and how important science is. I'm a new mom. I have this precious little baby girl. I hope she grows up in a world where she feels like she can do whatever she wants, where diversity in expression and personality and culture, all sorts of things, is celebrated, appreciated, tolerated. And I'd love that if she chose a career in science, she didn't feel stifled. She felt like she fit in, and she could express her scientific self in whatever way she wanted. If you inspire a girl to go into a STEM career and show her the different ways that she can do what she loves, she can change the world.
When I was growing up, I never thought of myself as the science and engineering type because I wasn't breaking apart toys curious to understand how they work. What I wondered about was the humans who put them together. What were they thinking? To me, it was always the human context that was powerful. I knew from a young age I wanted to do something that would solve problems, help people improve lives. I just wanted to make the world a better place. And in looking back, I realized that I would have never been a scientist or an engineer had it not been for my parents' persistence. To me, the humanities was much more interesting and exciting. But now I know science is a human endeavor, and it's one in which you can bring your whole self in. Your ideas, your inspiration, your passion, your interests. And that's exactly what I did.
No, wait for that portion.
Oh my God, onion smells. My name is Jayshree Seth. I'm a scientist at 3M, and I'm also 3M's first ever chief science advocate. I do come from a family that really values education. My great-grandfather had a master's. I'm not sure how many people can say that. My maternal grandfather was a physician. My father retired as the director of India's National Institute of Hydrology. My mother is a college graduate. I know that we have a long legacy of education, and it was very important in the family. So as a young family, my dad decided that we would move to a place called Roorkee. And it's just an engineering town because there is this premier engineering institute, then there's the Irrigation Research Institute, the Army Corps of Engineers. So it was just in the water. We used to joke that everybody just has to become an engineer. And what that meant is all the parents encouraged their kids to become engineers, even their daughters. So I did well in school. I always liked working hard. And it comes down to this entrance exam, and I didn't get in. I didn't get in. So I ended up in a college thousands of miles away from home in a completely different part of the country. It's like going from Ireland to Portugal. It's a different language, different culture, different social norms. It was a really big change for me. So I was in my final year, and everybody was applying to go to the US for graduate school. And just in competition with the guys, I also applied. And this time, I got in. And so, long story short, I ended up in the US at Clarkson University in upstate New York for my master's in chemical engineering. And in many ways, when I look back, I realized that I became a trailblazer because I was the only girl in the lab. There were 14 of us. And I was working on a theoretical modeling project. And I would look around, and there were other people in the lab who were actually doing experiments. All these years, I had never realized what is it that I wanted. See, I was kind of going along with what the expectations were of me. For the first time, I started realizing this sense of, is this what I want to do? What is it that I like? And I realized that I wanted to do experiments. I wanted to feel that whatever I was doing was helping people. In looking back, I feel like I was missing the human context of what I was doing. So I decided to switch from my master's to my PhD, my fields. I have to start over. But somewhere deep down, I also knew that I have done this before. I have reinvented myself many times already and have done new things. I'll be fine. So I had an opportunity to do an internship at 3M. And that's when I first came to Minnesota, and I thought it was a great environment, and I got offered a full-time position. It was in a completely different area than my master's or PhD. So my PhD was in diamond-like films, and I came here and I started working on closures and fasteners for disposable diapers. So I always joke that I went from diamonds to diapers. I'd never seen a diamond, I'd never seen a diaper, so what's the difference? I would envision what it would be like for a child to wear these diapers, and we made them softer and softer from our closures. And just that context and the empathy that you feel for the end user was such a critical part of the science that I was doing, and that was so important to me. So I was very successful in some of my early projects. I got a lot of accolades. I started getting noticed. I got more and more challenging projects, and with each one, it built my confidence. So I've had a successful career. I've been here 27 years. I have worked on many different product innovations. I'm at the highest level a scientist can attain. With my role as the chief science advocate, I got the opportunity to observe people's perception of science and the relationship society has with science. It was very interesting. 4 out of 10 said if science didn't exist, their lives would be no different. This was shocking. Science is all around us. It has made our lives so much better, but we haven't communicated it for the average public to understand. And so the more stereotypes we break, the better outcomes we're going to have because we invite more people into the world of science. So this is my office, and yes, the patents are part of the projects that I worked on for over 27 years that I've been at 3M. And I don't know if I can say there is a special or favorite patent. It's really not about the patents, it's about the problems we solve. And each of these patents reminds me of the people that I have collaborated with to solve those problems. So these are all very special to me. I never thought of myself as the science type, but it turns out I am the science type. I want to tell the next generation of STEM students that you don't have to be what people expect from a scientist, some outdated stereotype. As far as racial and gender equity goes, we need every idea, every diverse perspective in order to solve problems. In fact, that's exactly what we need more of. Science needs you to be you.